So it's come to my attention that there's been some controversy surrounding some 3 little words, and I don't understand why. It's just a bunch of people having hissy fits that their status quos are being challenged.
Oh, my ability to process irony is being challenged right now. And honest to goodness, SJW complaining about a bunch of people having hissy fits.
Die Cis Scum.
You mean to say you're voicing a prejudice based on people's sexual identity? No, I'm late to this party. Very late. You might not have seen one of these videos for years. But it popped up on the side panel there, and I had to look, and then I couldn't let it lie. I've checked to see if this is actually satire, because it is so fucking stupid. It's difficult to credit that it wasn't done purely for comic effect, but I can't find any evidence that it is satire.
So, for those of you who've been living under a privileged rock your entire life,
This idea that everyone is privileged is crazy. You know, the economy is a giant Ponzi scheme. There's lots and lots and lots and lots of people on the bottom rung, and the rungs get shorter and shorter and smaller until you get to the top where some sort of king shit figure sits, and everyone else supports that pyramid. To sort of imply that the majority of people are privileged is fucking crazy.
and don't know what cis means.
I know this, and you might think I've looked this up just for this video. But when SJW started using this language, I did look up cisgendered. And I know what it means. I remember it's a person who's born with the psychological sexuality to go with their biological sexuality.
It's short for cisgender, which means that a long time ago, a doctor took 5 seconds to look at your baby genitals and say, you are going to be this person.
That's not what it means. That's not what cisgendered means. You fucking twat. You're taking the piss, saying, oh, you don't know what cisgender means. That's not what it means. My definition was accurate.
And by some astronomical coincidence, you grew up and said, meh. And you know what? That's fine and dandy for some people, but for the rest of us, we're not entirely happy with what's on our birth certificates.
Fuck me, you idiot. When a baby pops out, there are a certain amount of identifiers that can go with it. The colour of it, the colour of its eyes, if it's got any hair, the colour of that. Whether it's a boy or a girl. I mean, put boy or girl is a major physical indicator. There's so many reasons to define people by a biological sexuality. Let's go straight to one of the worst ones, perhaps. If you go and rob your local liquor store and then you're running away and someone phones it up, they'll say a woman, immediately cutting out 50% of the possible suspects in the population. Now when they're doing that and the policeman gets the call and he sees you fucking running down the road with your clutch bottles and he's like, oh yeah, that's the woman, and he's like, he's not gonna then fucking pop his head out the window and go, excuse us darling, do you mind if I refer to you as a woman while I'm radioing your cretinous fucking crime? There's a fucking straight up, honest to goodness reasons for defining sex based on biology. You can't ask the baby, do you think you're gonna grow up to be gay, trans? It has no idea and won't until later in life. It can't fucking answer you anyway. Are we going to take the baby's internal view of the world as our indicator on its birth certificate? So, or because the baby's awareness is all it knows, it is its own centre of the universe. When the baby pops out, are we going to start saying, well, that's another centre of the universe, that'll do, stick that on the birth certificate? What's the fucking point? What are we going to get a birth certificate writing it? It could be anything. And there's no fucking point in doing that. People are ahead of your thinking. A couple go into hospital because a woman's having contractions, a baby pops out, the doctor goes, it's a little girl. That doesn't mean it's going to be cute and fluffy and straight. Little boy pops out. That doesn't mean he's going to be a little rogue and fucking misogynistic later in life. People don't make these assumptions. The child grows in its own way. They nurture it as what it turns out to be. Some kids are very tactile. Some kids are not. Some kids are very masculine. Male or female they could be. Some kids are very masculine. Some kids are very feminine. And again, male or female. They're not fucking judging you as soon as you pop out.
We're transgender. And we're a bitty part of this little acronym, LGBT, and trust me, I'll get to that another day. But unfortunately, cis people are the majority in this world, and they think they get to decide our identities and our lives.
Do you not realise how progressive the times are that you live in? Or even the country. You could be killed in other countries for talking like this. Not so long ago, the guy who cracked the Enigma code and won us the Second World War was fucking imprisoned for buggery because he was gay. Not so long ago, Oscar Wilde was imprisoned for being gay. People in the 60s came out and marched and demonstrated, and they got gay rights. They achieved that. They've opened the majority of society's eyes. Now, I will admit there's still a lot of ignorance out there, but for you to keep whining on a puerile level and saying stupid fucking shit.
But unfortunately, cis people are the majority in this world.
Most of the people in this world are cisgendered, unfortunately. Why is that unfortunate? Cisgendered people are the reason we are all here. You might say, oh, we can get in vitro fertilization, we can do all kinds of things with eggs and DNA now. Yeah, not 300 years ago, not 3,000 years ago, not 300,000 years ago, not 3 million years ago. We are here because of cisgendered people. Probably 2 of them gave birth to you. You're projecting prejudice of your own. You're not fighting fire with fire, you're just a bitter fuck who hasn't appreciated the huge leaps that society has taken in opening their eyes to this. Now, I'm pissed off. Religion brought the shit onto you that it did. It was kind of ridiculous what happened to gay people because of Christianity. And that totally spilled over just to women who express as male and to guys who express as female. You know, it's like there's a false crime to start with, and they get hung for having the appearance of the false crime, not even for the crime itself. Okay, that's fucking ridiculous. But darling, this dude is the Marquis de Sade. He lived from 1740 to 1814. He's the only guy that I would say was kinkier than me. He drugged prostitutes in Paris. What is so filthy? What is so unspeakable that you can't even ask a prostitute to do it? You have to drug her. Running around from the authorities in France. He gets caught in England. They start torturing him because of his erotic literature. When they tortured him, this is the rumour, when they tortured him to confess, they had to stop doing it because he was enjoying it too much. Now that is the kinky, kink, fuck, McKink king. He's fucking awesome. Now that level of kink still isn't accepted, and I'm not going to say I'm in the same ballpark, but like I say, he's dead, so I choose the crown even though I'm not as bad as this cunt. So one off, but just use some fucking perspective.
Transgender people are pissed the fuck off that we constantly have to be beaten down by the sissies.
Sounds alright. Send the sissies my way. They can beat the shit out of me. I have to train up to the Marquis de Sade's level.
So one brilliant human being one day decided to coin the term Cis Scum, and since then a lot of apparent outrage has emerged. And you know what? I totally understand the opposing arguments. But I think they're ridiculous, and here's a list why. Number 1, this is not a literal sentiment. No one is advocating violence against the sissies.
You're always trying to change what other people say. You want them to watch their pronouns. You want to insert the 72 trans pronoun gender types into our language. You go on about microaggressions and say people are doing them all the time. You say staring at a woman equals rape culture. You're always fucking harping on about what we can and can't say, and suddenly it's okay to say die, cis, scum, you sissies. You know, if you want to operate on that level, I can just sit here and go, you fucking tranny, scum, die! That would be perfectly fine. I am sure SJWs would have a lot to say about people who started speaking like that. That's not fucking prejudice and oppression at all, is it? We can't just say, well, we're not inciting violence. Some people, a very small minority, might take it as inciting violence and go and do something crazy, but what's to say they wouldn't have done that anyway? Fuck it. You frickin'... What are you anyway?
Now I want you to remember exactly how many times and how often you've heard something like this. Wow, this movie is terrible. Whoever made this needs to be shot.
Somebody needs to shoot the maker of this video.
Also, I'm pretty sure that these people who are offended by this Cis Scum are the same people that are still hiding in their houses ever since they heard that it's raining men. Number 2. This is a perfectly reasonable response to years upon years of transphobia and bigotry.
Well, no, not really. It would classify more as a show of anger, not as a reasonable response, because it is itself phobia and bigotry. You're basically saying, look, it's not alright for you to do that, but now it's alright for us to do it.
Anyone who is a part of any minority group is entitled to anger. And if you think that a person is not entitled to being angry at the prejudices against them, then you're probably a privileged douchebag.
Being entitled to anger is one thing. Being hypocritical, making no sense, and just bitter, and trying to change the world on those pillars of foundation, that is complete bollocks.
Number 3. Transgender people are part of a minority group that have to constantly endure the oppression by cis people, and doubly so if they're trans feminine or a person of color. So a supposed attack on the group in power doesn't really mean anything because they already have the unfair advantage.
And that narrative is working really well for race relations right now, isn't it? You know what would be weird? Is if you turned round after all this righteous anger and said, I've changed my mind. The doctors were right. I had choice later in life, I chose one way, then changed my mind, and I'm actually cisgendered and don't give a crap about these issues anymore. Well, that's exactly what happened. From ageofshitlords.com. She came out as cisgender, said that being transgender was just a phase for her, which she has finally grown out of. Here's what she looks like now. I don't know if she feared backlash from her fellow Tumblr peeps or if it was out of embarrassment, but she decided that she'd had enough of the internet. She deleted her Tumblr account, shut down her website, her Instagram, and pretty much every other social network she was present on disappeared too. Her YouTube channel is still live, but she deleted all her uploads, including the original Cis Scum video. The video included in this article was re-uploaded by someone who managed to download it before she took it down. She has essentially gone off-grid, but I managed to retrieve some old pictures of her. Don't ask me how. So there you go, SJWs and third-wave feminists. The reason we don't listen to you is because some people are full of piss and wind, and those people are you. We know you're talking shit, and it's only a matter of time until the sensible ones get out of it. But those still in it, in their 20s, 30s, 40s, as they grow older, they don't learn a fucking thing. They're too blinkered by their own bullshit. And that's why we shouldn't listen, and that's why we shouldn't respond to your stupid pressure group bollocks. No, you're not gonna change the law. We won't have it. We won't let you. You're talking shit, and you will be in that box for as long as you talk shit. Well, that's some badass news intro. This better be good after that.
Hi everyone.
Toba erupted on the other side of the world in Indonesia, forcing Cro-Magnons out of Africa. They spread around the globe in what was to become Atlantis.
Kaja! That's what you get for mentioning Atlantis.